Do you know how deep?
So IBB book is still causing some stir in the polity. A whole lot of persons have been looking into that book. Some say it's just so much write-up without any substance. Some others say that so much lies in it. There are half-truths. So much people have also said that it's, well, a particular portion is truthful. I mean, if you are telling a story, you would only tell a story from your premise, not from another person's premise. But some persons needed to put some perspective to it. Falana has a lot to say regarding that particular book, but we will just, focus on a few things from the IBB's memoir and some of the revelations. And joining us to talk about this is Tony Nwachukwu, as a public affairs analyst and a travel expert. Good to have you. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Fab.
Yeah, good morning, though.
Tony, I mean, when that book was released, I'm 100% sure that in another 6 months from when the book was released, we'll still be talking about it. We'll still be referring to it. Social media is all agog with some of the content of that particular book. Many persons pointed towards the 1993 annulled elections. And for the first time, he's revealing that he wasn't the one that annulled it, even though he announced it. But he said that it was Abacha that did the annulment. I really don't know how it works with military, but if you are the one announcing it, you did it. You are the head of state. So saying that somebody else who wasn't at the time in the picture of things, saying that he annulled it is something that some people are taking with a pinch of salt. But then again, that big reveal about the Igbos not being involved, the 1966 coup, for many years have been tagged as the Igbo coup. He reveals that that particular coup wasn't actually an Igbo coup. Can you give us your overview of what you have seen and what you have read regarding that?
Well, I think the truth is that I have seen 1979 Constitution and I have seen 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic. Though I've seen 1960 Constitution too. The truth is that I am still wondering about this environment called Nigeria, where you have law, and then the people of this country, this environment, Nigerian environment, still find it difficult to support their law. Law is just the mind of the writers, and it's on a paper, and it's upon us, citizens, to do one simple thing: uphold it. Why I said that is this: there was 1966 coup, and yet 1960 Constitution stated that no person or group of persons should assume the authority of leadership of the country forcefully. Nobody should acquire power forcefully to govern a state. And from that period that we went to civil war, 1966 coup, Aguirre, counter plus counter, and most of the actors are alive. And everybody is afraid to gather these men. The state is afraid to gather these men and prosecute them. The question is, why is those in government afraid to prosecute those that took over power forcefully?
Can that still be done now? I mean, some of them are pale and very haggard.
Criminality.
How do you put them in jail at this age?
Criminality is criminality. It doesn't matter the number of years it takes. In some cases, Nazi actors, most of them have died. Some were dug up from their grave, and they are still being prosecuted till today.
A grave?
Yes.
A dead body prosecuted.
Yes. That is the way to enforce law. That is the way to establish law. That is the way to abide by law. So now IBB is talking, and I ask question. My question is simple. Why did IBB wait until Professor Humphrey Nwosu died? Because it's ridiculous for him to begin to tell, or for him to tell Nigerians that he was responsible. There was an umpire, National Electoral Commission, NEC. National Electoral Commission, chairman by Professor Humphrey Nwosu. Fortunately, I was able to be close to that prof. And I have a lot of information, too many informations he gave out. So for me, it's just what I call maybe some people from North and some people from Southwest, just like Babangida was boggled, Buhari was boggled and lured into announcing June 12th as Democracy Day for this country. So if it was Democracy Day, Buhari announced that. What happened to the democracy of 1979-83 that he overthrew? And why did Nigerians compensate him by bringing him back as president instead of prosecuting for overthrowing a legitimate, democratically elected president of Nigeria, Shehu Shagari of blessed memory, with his team, that routine? They were all stoppages. These actors, these men were all deliberate stoppages. They worked against democracy. And there is nowhere that you work against democracy and then you destroy the foundations of democracy. And then the irony is that they do coup, they arrest you. And you keep wondering. So for Babangida, they call him Babangida. Babangida means father of the house. It is funny. It's cajoling. It makes little or no sense because that was the prime of my youth. I witnessed most of those things because we were part of those in the advocacy for declaration of June 12 results. And I was part of those that went on exile. The question is, why, like you asked? Now, Abacha is dead. You are alive. You didn't say anything. You waited until Professor Humphrey Nwosu died. And today, for annulling the so-called popular and most acceptable election in Nigeria, they gathered to raise 17 billion naira plus for you. To thank you.
It's even more.
For destroying democracy.
Yeah, that's the irony of it.
That's the irony of it. That should not be done. The truth is that if we have, like I know we have a government, but why is that not, why is this government not government of law? We have a National Assembly. What's the fear? The man has said, we did this.
But he said he regrets.
If he regrets, for who?
His actions.
Against Nigeria. Not against me, not against Abiola. Against Nigeria. So, what did the president say? What did the president of the country today say? What did the leadership of National Assembly say to that? And then that library, with due respect, why would anybody think about that library? Library of what?
Library of history.
On how to distort democracy.
How not to distort democracy.
No, it's on how to distort the democracy.
I mean, but the reason is he has apologized. He has seen that he's wrong. Or
the man declared himself president. Whatever the decree he chose, and they enacted it, he called himself a president. So the issue is, why are we pretending over these things? And then somebody will just talk in the backyard. We'll go and get the person and say it's terrorism. There is no terrorism that is worse than the terrorism that attack democracy. Anything that affects democracy is anti-people. Do you know the number of people that lost their lives during the June 12th? It was like a freeze. At a point, certain ethnic groups in the country felt there was going to be another war. Not civil war. There's no war that is civil. It's war is war. So, what I think is that since Babangida is alive, I think Buhari is alive. Obasanjo was a circumstantial actor. He did not conduct any coup. He quickly got in there to avoid vacuum and quickly ushered in processes that led to democratically elected process. And then Shagari was elected. Check it, find out the history. Do they think Obasanjo was not with his senses? Do they think Obasanjo don't know that sometime, someday, some people will come to query these things? So, I'm not saying for those that are contributing money for that library, the question is, what will you learn from that library on how to develop, support, and advance democracy? Will you go to that library and borrow which book?
Book of politics. I mean, there's a whole lot that have been revealed.
All we can see in that library is the book of coups. How to organize coup, how to annul elections, and the rest of them.
But in the contrast, I mean,
remember, there's a generation that is watching.
Yeah,
there is a generation that is watching, and then the current president was a victim of that process.
Yes.
So if there's any person that will talk, he is the one. It could be executive legislation. The Constitution stated that nobody, it has remained from 1960 Constitution to 1979 to date 1999, say no person or group of persons shall take over power forcefully. That provision is still there. So what are they waiting to implement it? What is the Attorney General waiting to implement it?
So, as it stands now, let's go back to that particular revelation. It's on record that Abibi himself, who is the former head of state for the first time, somebody who's that prominent in the North, has giving into that thought that all the while that everyone had thought about that 1966 coup, that it wasn't an Igbo coup. What do you think the Igbos had lost because of that stigmatization of the fact that that coup was an Igbo coup?
Well, I have at all times shared this opinion, even with you personally, that 1966 coup was not an Igbo coup. Number one is that when you look at the names, we have more Yorubas, you have more people from southwest Nigeria, and you have one from, just one Igbo, Ifajuna, made the list. Just one Igbo.
So why did they
then
target an Igbo coup?
Listen, Nzogwu was from Midwestern Nigeria. Today, Edo and Delta was Midwest.
Yeah.
Osadebe was the premier then. So Nzogwu has no link with Eastern Nigeria to say. Nzogwu, Chukwuma Nzogwu. And there is no Igbo family that bears the name Nzogwu. You call it Nzogwu. They call it Nzogwu. No Igbo family. No community. No clan bear the name Nzogwu. Nzeogw. So it has never been an Igbo or Eastern Nigerian coup. It was a coup by Midwesterners and Southwesterners. That is just the sheer truth. The name Ifajuna played little or no role in that. But the anger was that persons that was mapped out. Some persons were mapped out for whatever operational reasons, and then people like Zik, later Zikiwe, M.I. Okpara, who was premier then, and a lot of them were not tracked in that coup. It makes no sense. Yes, granted, Sadwana was eliminated. So, it was a coup. And what did the government do after? It began with Aguiyi-Ironsi. What did the government do after? What did that regime do? And then we ask ourselves, what was the purpose of all these coups? How did it move Nigeria forward? How did it support the Nigerian foundation? How did it support the development of democracy? So it's still out of personal interest. Someone sitting down somewhere, believing that this thing is not working the way it should be. Any person in the military or in our security system should consider the functionality of the security department it belongs to, efficiency, not the administration of the country. That is truth. So, if it's not an Igbo coup, and there's no way to be an Igbo coup, and it can never be an Igbo coup, because don't forget that the late Emeka Nwachukwu was the military administrator for Eastern Nigeria. So what was his role? Zero. He was here when all these things was happening. He couldn't join. Okay? Probably because he had a better experience of what militarism means, and then implications of coups and things like that, because he was well read as an Oxford material. But what about those that carried that? What was their purpose? Why the coup? So many horrifying things. Let me just use that term. Worse things has happened since 1999 to date. And then democracy have come to stay. So there is need for Nigeria to query, Nigeria as a nation, to query those past and punish all those involved. That is the truth. If anybody is afraid to say it, today I have stated it. There is need for Nigeria as a nation to query that past. To query that past. There is need, because until there is justice for those practices, you will also be giving room. You'll be giving room for possible occurrences again. So, either we support our constitution, either we believe in our constitution, either we uphold our constitution, or, we'll just be standing, hanging in the air, and we'll, becomes a borrowed time thing. So that any other time, some guys, few people will gather themselves and then possibly take over government.
What sensitive issues do you think were downplayed or left out in that book?
If they say Abiola won the election, let them announce the result.
But he released the result in his book.
That's what I said. If they say he won the election, let them announce the result and possibly put his picture in the villa as the former president of Nigeria. What was not in that book was the persuasions, the involvement, the role the National Electoral Commission chairman played in assuaging the military in that era to accept and allow him announce that result. Collation was complete. If you read Moses' book, collation was complete. It was clear. The lead in that election was clear. not just for president, but for persons that stood senatorial and House of Reps elections. Governorship election has come and gone. So it was clear where NRC or SDP was leading. But for the National Assembly and the president, people were winning. And a lot of people died out of the trauma of that annulment. Most people elected died out of that trauma. So, what was left in that book is not the inclusion of the role of Professor Humphrey Nwosu.
The role of
Professor Humphrey Nwosu. That book cannot be complete if you admit that you take responsibility for the annulment of that election. You must let Nigerians know what the then NEC, National Electoral Commission, the role they played, and how you collected. From who did you receive the result from? That is how you bring in Humphrey Nwosu in, well, and his team. Some of his team members are still alive. So there is need, because there was no reason to say you are annulling an election, that it was in overall interest of Nigerians. How? Nigerians went out and voted somebody, and you annulled it and say it was in their interest. How?
To have a civil war.
Which civil war?
He claims.
Which, is there any war that is civil?
Yeah, again, let me add, and let me also add this. Oju Zokalu, the other day, I think it was yesterday, says that he's hoping to see the second version of The Journey to Service by IBB. That IBB should have to write a second version of that particular book, and says that he wants to know the names of those whom he said stopped him from, announcing Abiola as the winner, because he said he was there. He actually knew what was going on at the time.
How can a president say that he was stampeded?
Is it not possible? I mean, this is like about every government.
If I am a president,
yeah,
and this is the team, and in this meeting, all of you, your view becomes that what was genuinely done should be downplayed. I'll wait for you, this meeting, to dismiss. And once this meeting is dismissed, in fact, I won't even wait. I'll tell you I have a headache. Let's continue in the next 2 hours. By the time you leave this door and go and enter your car, all of you will be arrested. I'll just stuff all of you in detention. And that ends it. So there are things, somebody who was leading an illegitimate militocracy system, and he comes out to say that his gang stuffed him, and that in the interest of Nigeria, they annulled that election. So what happens to the Nigerian funds, Nigerian revenue that was used in conducting that election? Who returns it back to the country? They should deduct it from the 17 billion. That is the truth.
Anyway, the 17 billion is not like it's cash per se. I mean,
This
things can be
it's
announced.
Pledge.
Not so much.
It's pledge. So I am not against him. He's a man I very fine, handsome, wonderful.
At the time.
At the time.
No longer now.
I don't know. But the point is this. Journey to service or journey of service. The secret in it is that the man has come just like too many people that participated in the Second World War. Okay? Nazi actors. They are giving in, just like he has given. There is need for our National Assembly, as a matter of need, to receive that book, go through that book, and then do one favor to Nigerians. Enforce the provision of the Constitution that states that you don't take power by force.
Absolutely. So Nwachukwu.
That provision has been there since 1960 to date. And if it is there, the meaning is that until we do that, democracy here will continuously be undermined. Until we gather all those that participated in coup. They must tell us why they took over the country.
Those who are still alive, though.
Those who are still alive. And then those who had their way, possibly they may have become president of this country, should be derobed and National Assembly make a law denouncing their whatever service.
Mr. Tony,
that they were never president.
Let's leave it there, because I mean you have really hit the nail on its head. I mean we just need to go back and call out these guys. IBB has released a book. I'm sure that there will be counter response to some of the things that he has written. I'm sure I'm expecting the one from Falana. I'm expecting Obasanjo to write, encountering him. I'm also expecting Fasoro Timi to write. I mean, there are a whole lot of persons who have a lot of problems with that
people like
book.
Udenta, Professor Udenta.
Yes, would also have an issue with that book. So I'm sure that there will be a flurry of events that will follow up, this particular book that has been released. But thank you, Tony, for your review. We truly appreciate it.
Thanks for appreciating me. But one thing I want to say before I leave is that they should refund Nigeria their money that they wasted in that June 12th.
Okay, that's IBB should refund the money from the 17 billion that they give.
Is it me? He has to refund it.
Okay. We'll see about that. Thank you so much, Tony Nwachukwu, for your time. We truly appreciate it. We're back shortly after this. Do stay with us.
Save Nature TV. News in your pocket.